Daniel, how's it going?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well, and I'm Gil. You're supposed to say, Gil, how's it going? So that way we could organically tell people who we are rather than saying, I'm Gil, and this is my brother Daniel. Welcome to OneTake. Oh,
I was gonna say.
Go ahead.
I was gonna go. Oh, hey, Gil. How long have you and I been brothers? What is it? 20?
That's my favorite Vince Gilligan quote, where he talked about basically exposition on a TV show or a movie, or in a movie. Exposition is when characters say things to explain stuff to the audience, but it's inorganic. So, for example, the example Vince Gilligan gave is that in the first episode of Better Call Saul, you might watch that episode and not realize that Jimmy and Chuck are brothers. And he was like, how do you communicate that to the audience? A bad show would have Jimmy go up to Chuck and be like, Chuck, you and I have been brothers for what, 25 years? And we haven't talked in what, 5 years? The funny thing is, if you go to I think episode 4 or 5 of Better Call Saul, they do a flashback, which is my least favorite scene of the whole series. They're both wearing wigs and they look it looks really fake. They're trying to make them look young. And Chuck walks in and he goes, Jimmy, we haven't spoken in what, 5 years?
Is that the scene where Saul had gotten arrested for Chicago Steamer? I think Steam Roof.
Chicago Sunroof, Steamer. If you know what it is, that adds a really nasty image to it. That's disgusting. Don't get out of here.
So I was gonna say I was distracted though when you first came on, because you know how if you're on a Zoom or a Google Meet and you see your own face there, or on FaceTime, and you end up just staring at your own face instead of the person you're talking to. So when we stream together, I always set up windows on my screen to cover up my face so I can only see you. And I had forgotten to do that, so I was in the middle of doing that when you had come on.
Yeah, this is classic Daniel. Sorry, I was too distracted looking at myself. I remember in college. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I feel like when we're talking to each other, you're just staring at yourself the whole time.
So you might look at the Cinnabon. It's actually pretty funny because we are kind of like Gene Takovic right now, if you think about it. He was lonely, he was depressed at the Cinnabon, and he was holding on to his glory days, which is basically what we're doing. We're still using the Cinnabon background, trying to hold on to our Saulcast glory days.
Those were the best days.
Yep. Okay, well, we're fresh off watching the Dune 2 trailer, rewatching it, I should say, because it's the second time we watched it. And Daniel, what's your reaction? What do you think of this trailer?
I don't know that the trailer, I mean, it was a cool trailer, but I don't know that it in particular got me more excited. I was already just excited for Dune. I didn't see anything in this trailer.
Water. That's Zendaya. That was her first line in the trailer. Yeah. You dive in?
I guess nothing in that trailer got me more excited, really. I guess I liked the idea of, now he's becoming one with the, I don't know what they're called, the nomadic people on Arrakis, the indigenous people.
I'm just going to let you hang yourself. I'm just going to sit here.
I forget what they're called. He's getting into their way of life, and now he's going to have to work with them to reclaim, power and glory for House Atreides.
Yeah, I've never seen that before. Avatar, Pocahontas, the original Dune book. I don't know why getting on a mic with you for some reason just makes me want to be really antagonistic toward you.
Yeah, you're mean. What do you have to say about Dune 2?
Well, obviously, I'm really excited for Dune 2. I like Dune 1. I love sci-fi. I love Denis Villeneuve, if I'm saying that right, the director. And I'm excited for the movie. I don't need to see the trailer, so I didn't watch it. But I did watch it. It's a good trailer. The funny thing is, the first time I watched the trailer, I was really underwhelmed by it. I was like, half the trailer is him about to jump on the sandworm, and the other guy being like, don't do anything fancy, okay? And I was like, enough already. I get it. But rewatching it, I realized that's really not true. That's actually just a small part of the trailer. And it's a good trailer. It's my favorite part is at the 45-second mark. You know the theme song for Dune? Ha! There's one part where that bald, white, like super pale person opens his mouth wide, and it looks like he's singing the song because it synchronizes perfectly. Let me see if I can find it. I wonder if I can share my.
Oh, I lost your audio now, Gil.
What's that?
Your audio disappeared whenever you tried to share something.
Really? All right. Maybe I won't bother with that. But I'll just tell everybody, go to the 50-second mark of the trailer, and it'll make your day. But I love the underdog rising up and fighting back, and that's basically what you were just describing, right? Where he's getting more ingrained into their way of life, and fury will rise. Also, I love revenge, especially when people are telling you not to do it. Your father, he hated revenge, and that makes the revenge all the sweeter because now you're also getting revenge on the person who's telling you not to do. See, now there's revenge, but there's also, what's the other word I'm looking for? It's like revolt, where someone's telling you not to do something, but you do it anyway. So it's
Rebelling.
double. Yeah, it's rebelling and it's revenge. So that got me excited. All right, see, Anthony Cheeseman. I can't believe the Dune movie is copying the book, man. Come on. Unbelievable. All right. Any other thoughts on Dune, Daniel? I mean, see, that's the kind of commentary. Other shows would be like, let's go frame by frame and explain it. We're not going to do that. That's
We're
boring.
not going to do that and we're not going to be good enough at explaining it.
Yeah, I tried to do a breakdown of the first Dune trailer. Remember that? And I did go frame by frame, but I never read the book, so I was like looking at the wiki and I was trying to pretend like I was an expert, but then I horribly pronounced one of the words and people
Oh,
called me out on
Gom
it. And I was like,
Jabber.
yeah, it was Gom Jabbar, right?
Yeah.
And I was like,
So and do you remember my friend who's a big Dune fan helped us with it, and we sent him a free OneTake shirt. But you know what? Maybe we should ask for that shirt back because he didn't catch the Gom Jabbar gate. It was a huge scandal in the
oh
YouTube
yeah.
world.
Well, we had him consult. He looked at the script I wrote,
Yeah.
but
Well,
he
why are you
should have.
bailing him out?
Well, he should have anticipated the mispronunciation and put in parentheses the phonetic spelling.
Yeah. Also, didn't we end up getting a copyright claim on that video too?
Oh, I don't know.
Or
Let
did
me
we
check.
not? I feel like we got like 2,000 views on that video and then a copyright claim.
Yeah, I think you're
It
right.
was
Yeah.
like getting trampled and then shot in the face.
Yeah, mispronunciations. If you want to know if this is what people don't get about words. All right. You learn how to pronounce words in your own language at a very young age, and it imprints on your brain. Even if it's a mispronunciation, it imprints in your brain in a way that when you hear people say the word, you hear it the way you say it. Like, what's the word I kept? Earthquake. I've been saying earthquake since I was like 5, apparently. And when I hear people say the word in my ears, it sounds like earthquake. If you want to know if you're mispronouncing a word, say it on YouTube and people will very politely correct you. The MCU recap. It's a 5-hour video and people will watch me talk for 5 hours and 13 minutes and say, "You mean Romanoff? Romanoff? Did you even watch the movies, you idiot?" Because apparently I said Romanoff instead of Romanoff. All right, I'll get off my high horse.
If you want to learn a new language, you just post videos of yourself talking. It'll get like 5 views, but even with 5 views on YouTube, someone will correct your pronunciation.
Yeah, I am a little salty because I've been learning Chinese, and that's a really hard language to pronounce because you have all the tones as well. You have to like change the shape of your mouth to try and say the words properly. And I'm using this app called Busu, which has a really nice feature where it'll pair you up with people. So there are people who know Chinese and are learning English. It'll pair them with me. And so I'll correct their exercises and they'll correct mine. And this one guy, I used you as the example. I had to introduce you as my friend and tell them about you. And they were like, "Your pronunciation is improper," and gave me 3 out of 5 stars. And I was like, if my pronunciation was proper at this stage, that would be impossible. So it's just that really rubbed me the wrong way.
Look, Gil, I already apologized for giving you 3 out of 5 stars.
All right, so Dune 2, we're excited. Did you take any notes for this, by the way?
Notes on the Dune trailer?
No, for this live stream.
I made a few notes on
How
some Daniel
dare
Fitz
you?
topics.
How dare you? You crossed the picket line, you jerk. There's a strike going on. You're not supposed to write. All my friends are really upset. I haven't been texting anybody back. I'm not allowed to write. I'm sorry. Yes, Daniel, I warned you. I told you this was going to happen. I told you the strike was coming. You didn't believe me. You said, Pshaw, that'll never happen. And I said you weren't around in 2008. So, yeah, the writers are on strike. It's actually happening. And how are you going to be affected by this? So late night shows, those are the things that get written on a daily basis. So those stop right away. Daniel, you won't get to see any of your favorite shows anymore. Jimmy Kimmel Live, The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon, Late Night with Seth Meyers. Saturday Night Live, you were supposed to watch Pete Davidson hosting this Saturday, and now you won't get to see that, Daniel.
I cried the last 3 days over that.
Did you ever watch these late night shows? Have you ever been into them?
Never. I mean, I've maybe watched some random YouTube clips that like pop up from those shows, but I've never watched them.
For a short time when I was younger, I tried getting into them, and podcasts kind of ruined those shows for me because the conversations feel so stilted. I mean, I guess that's not the right word. It's almost like the opposite of that. They feel so inorganic and planned out. You have to
Overproduced.
Overproduced. And it's always to promote something. So the conversations they don't feel raw. Like they do in a podcast. Like, I'm going to say it. I think this is way more entertaining than Seth Meyers talking with Celebrity of the Week, whoever it might be, and pretending to find everything they say funny.
I do find it weird. I don't know why anyone still watches that stuff when there are so many good podcasts and like for any niche, like any topic you're interested in. I mean, I guess some people are interested in the niche specifically of celebrities, like in general.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's what they like about it, right? Like it's not that there's, because even if there are specific celebrities you like, okay, listen to, well, I guess I don't know. A lot of celebrities probably don't go on podcasts.
The Nerdist?
But, oh yeah.
I think Joe Rogan interviews a lot of celebrities. But even them,
a
lot of them are like what's that?
Yeah, it's true. He's not interviewing most like, he's basically not interviewing like actors for the most part, right? Actors stick to these like traditional media, I guess.
It's funny. You know who you remind me of? I saw TJ Miller walked by me and a few other people on like the street corner. And I overheard, there was just a group of guys probably in their 20s, I think, that also saw TJ Miller walk by. And one of the guys in the group, he kept saying like, I don't know why people care about celebrities so much. Like I saw him walk by. I didn't even care. Just he kept trying to wear as a badge of honor. Like, look how little I care about celebrities.
Gil, I really didn't care. And I don't know why you need to keep bringing that up.
I love that's your go-to joke. Is that one twist? It was Daniel all along.
I'm just going to make that joke.
Chart so much. It was Agatha all along in WandaVision. It went to like number 1 on Spotify for weeks. And I don't want to meet the person who was listening to that on repeat after they saw it on WandaVision. It also, I've rewatched WandaVision more times than I care to admit because we had to rewatch it. Well, first we watched it just when it aired. Then we had to watch it when we did our Wanda recap, which was, less said about that, the better. The video is not even listed anymore. And then I rewatched it again.
Wait, you unlisted?
Yeah.
You unlisted my Wanda recap?
Yeah.
Why? It was a good recap.
And then I watched it again for the that's the other go-to joke is that you say something and I just steamroll past it.
By the way, you kept steamrolling, so I didn't get to say this, but Gil, I didn't listen to it on repeat that many times.
Nice.
All right,
so I've rewatched the show 3 times. And she goes, it was Agatha all along. What was her all along? There were like 2 things she did. Like a lot of the stuff
Gil,
that
she's
happened had
been
nothing to
messing stuff up from the beginning.
she's getting her own spinoff. And there's a rumor that the spinoff is going to be a musical. Daniel, there's a
Great.
s-
Spotify is going to be screwed. It's just going to be all Agatha songs. Who are these? Honestly, it's probably just a bunch of bots listening to all this
it's
stuff.
probably Cole Schramm. So back off. Cole Schramm is he's been around for a long time. Part of the OneTake family. He's disappointed the last season of Cobra Kai is potentially going to be delayed too. Yeah, so I guess back to the writer's strike. Where you see the immediate effect are these shows that people have to write on a daily basis because they stop writing immediately. But for produced shows, things like Cobra Kai, if there's stuff in the pipeline already, we're not going to see the effect for a while. So, for example, House of the Dragon season 2 is currently filming. All the scripts are written. So they're going to be able to finish filming, and that show is going to be released as scheduled. So we wouldn't see the effect of this until all the stuff that's already finished is released. All the stuff that's currently in production doesn't need any more writing. Once that's released, we don't see the effect until we get to the stuff where they're currently being written. And apparently Cobra Kai, I believe it's going into its final season. They're currently writing it, so that might get delayed. Did that make sense? I feel like, did you understand what I'm saying, Daniel?
Yeah. I think that makes sense. What I'm just starting to wonder. I'm curious what the financial impact is of delaying all these productions, right? Because obviously there's got to be there's a balance, right? Where if the writers are on strike long enough and enough stuff gets delayed, the money lost will exceed the money the studios have to gain from keeping, writing wages down, right? But I imagine that balance has got to be pretty far in the direction of like waiting, because like writers' wages are going to be fixed for a very long time, right? So you're talking about years and years of labor. But I wonder. I guess I'm trying to understand like what would be the financial impact of delaying these productions, because if productions aren't currently in process, right, you're not actually really spending any money on it. So is this really just lost revenue? Like, what are the fixed costs? I'm getting very financial on this,
We
but
need
I'm
a
curious to
spreadsheet
think
for
about like
this.
what are the fixed costs? Yeah, that the production companies have going. I mean, I guess it's just the general business of running the production company, right? Like all of the labor these companies have, everything that just exists to keep the company going, and you're just going to start foregoing revenue.
I think that, yeah, I would assume it's primarily the revenue impact, which again, they're not going to see for a while, right? Because they have such a pipeline of stuff to release. And
Yeah,
yeah,
what I was going to say is I bet the production companies don't have that many fixed costs. Like most of their costs probably go into the
so this,
production
this
of
is
a
actually
movie.
benefiting them, you're saying?
No, I'm not saying it benefits them, but what I'm saying is the production companies probably they don't lose that much money. It's more the opportunity cost of lost revenue. But the biggest loser is probably like theaters, which I think we talked about that right before, right? Which is theaters are almost entirely fixed cost, right? Of all this real estate and everything they're managing. So if they have to go a few years or something without like good movies coming out, they're going to be so screwed. But I guess we've
They,
said that so many times
they have
before.
to start making their own movies. It's going to be like, Quantum of Solace. That movie. I mentioned it on our first episode because that's one of the movies that was a casualty of the last writer's strike. And apparently, Daniel Craig was on set like writing scenes, and that's partly why it ended up so bad. 'Cause he's not a writer.
It's impressive. I mean, it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, I don't really remember that. I remember walking out of the movie and being like, I don't really remember that movie. It just didn't gel into an actual coherent thing in my head.
I have a question. Does that make Daniel Craig like there's a term
Hey, he
for people
crossed the
who
picket
cross
line,
picket
right?
lines?
So I think there were some they made some exceptions. Like in 2008, the WGA was okay with uh what was his name? The tall Conan. They were okay with some of these late night hosts or whatever continuing the show without them, and they were just forced to improvise. Honestly, I remember the shows being a lot more interesting at that point because it brought in some of that raw feeling that you and I appreciate. And it
So
felt
are
more
they
like a
doing
podcast.
that now? Like, are
No,
they
so
improvising yet, or they
this
just
time
stopped?
around, no, they're just stopping. I saw a video of Jay Leno
Hmm.
handing out some donuts to the writers, which on the surface, that seems like a nice thing. But when you eat donuts, you end up crashing like an hour later from the sugar. So I think he's just trying to knock them all out. He's like trying to wear them down.
That's funny though that this generation of late night hosts, they're not even going to try
Yeah,
improvising.
Cole said scab. You're a scab,
Yeah.
Daniel, because you took notes for this. Let me check my notes here. I had a question actually about the strike. Okay, the WGA on one side, who are they negotiating with? This is a bunch of studios, right? So apparently there's something called the AMPTP, the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers. That it's basically the negotiating body that represents all the producers and studios and everything.
I wonder how that's related to the Motion Picture Association.
Of
There's
America.
another A in there, the MPAA, right?
Yeah, of America.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because Hollywood is interesting. There are a lot of these like unions and associations that like regulate the industry. I actually didn't finish it, but I was watching the movie The Aviator a few weeks ago with Leonardo
Way of the
DiCaprio, where he
future.
plays.
Way of the future.
Is that something he says over and over?
Yeah. I was trying to
I didn't
test
get
if you
that far.
actually watched it or not.
He plays what's the guy's name? The really rich,
Hugh
eccentric
Jackman.
It is Hugh something.
Let's just sit
Oh,
here and
man.
stare at each other. So don't worry, Cole will find it. Cole will get us the name. Don't worry.
Thank you, Cole. Anyway, he has a movie he wants to not publish. He has a movie he wants to release. But the MPAA tries to block it by saying it's too lewd because they have a lot of close-ups on this woman's chest.
That's what you wanted to
MPAA.
say. What's the name of that guy? Well, what's the name? What is it called when you make a movie? Yeah, make a movie. And wow, pop quiz. What movie caused the MPAA to invent the PG-13 rating?
Oh, interesting. So I assume there was R and PG before, so they needed something in between.
That's right. Yeah. Because there used to be a lot of, if you watch some of the older PG movies, you'll see some stuff in there that you would consider lewd. You'd be like, wow, how is this PG? This is not parental guidance. Yeah. It was Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. I remember that movie. There's a scene where someone rips someone else's heart out while they're still alive. And I think at the time, George Lucas was going through a divorce or something. So people think maybe he wrote it into there because he's like, this is what happens. You get your heart ripped out. I remember seeing that scene. And as a child, it really affected me. And I wanted to try acting like the person who got their heart ripped out. So I was on the couch just going like making these weird motions. And my dad was like, stop it. What are you doing? This is the last time I did that. Any other thoughts on the writer's strike, Daniel?
No.
All right. Did you ever see Cloverfield?
Yes. And I saw that other Cloverfield movie.
10 Cloverfield Lane.
Yes. I think we saw both together.
Yeah, we might have. Do you remember the whole marketing campaign? Well, I guess first off, did you like Cloverfield?
Okay, wait. Cloverfield Lane was the one with the big guy that I really like, who's really funny.
John Goodman.
John Goodman. He's awesome. I love John Goodman. Okay, that was Cloverfield Lane.
I didn't ask if you remembered the movies. I asked if you liked it.
Like, well, I'm trying to remember it so then I could say if I liked it. So he has all the people kept in like the what's it called?
Basement.
Like the shelter. No, but it's like it's like a shelter, and he tells them the world is over, but they don't really know. They think they're being kept there. Okay, that was a cool movie. I liked that. Okay, Cloverfield was the found footage one where all these aliens attack Earth. I remember they're going through like the subway, right? I think they're trying to escape through the New York City subway, and there's all these aliens crawling around and stuff. Yeah, okay, I like both movies. Those were cool.
Yeah, and what was cool about Cloverfield too was the whole marketing campaign behind it, because J.J. Abrams was involved, and you know how much he loves to have mystery boxes. So there was this whole viral marketing campaign, and pretty key to it was this website, Slusho, which is a company that's in the movie that makes these slushy drinks. And somehow they were involved in this conspiracy. And you could go to the Slusho website and find all these Easter eggs that would give you little teases about what's going to be in the movie. There were puzzles that people had to work together to solve in order to reveal the first teasers and trailers and stuff. It was a lot of fun. I was in high school at the time. I was a teenager, so it was kind of the perfect time for me to get into that sort of thing. So it was a lot of fun build up to that movie. And then the actual movie itself, I love found footage. The whole, I feel like, gimmick of found footage is that it makes it all feel more real. And so for a horror movie, it makes everything scarier. For this monster movie, again, just makes everything more terrifying and suspenseful. That's kind of the gimmick of it. And it just works really well on me. The gimmick has not worn off no matter how many times I see it. Weirdly enough, though, twist, never seen Blair Witch Project, the one that popularized it.
Yeah,
One day
neither
I'll
have
see
I.
it, though. Yeah, maybe we should. Well, you wouldn't want to see it because you hate horror.
Well, a little bit of horror. These are different types of horror. Well,
Okay.
Cloverfield wasn't horror, right?
I wouldn't classify it as horror. More suspense than horror, right? What's the
Yeah.
difference between suspense and horror? It's a conversation for another day. But why are we talking about all this, Cloverfield? So that Slusho website I told you about, it's back. It's back online. Does that mean that we're gearing up finally for another Cloverfield movie? And even to say that another Cloverfield movie is a little bit confusing. What does that mean? 10 Cloverfield Lane, is that a sequel to Cloverfield? Not exactly. At that point, they were treating the series as more of an anthology series, like Twilight Zone. 10 Cloverfield Lane is not in the same universe as Cloverfield. They just turned the word Cloverfield into sort of a stamp that says, here's a weird and interesting sci-fi movie. But then they did the Cloverfield paradox. So the weird marketing campaign for this one is that during a Super Bowl a few years ago, they dropped a trailer for the Cloverfield paradox. And they were like, when does this movie come out? Tonight. You can watch it on Netflix right after the Super Bowl. And then I did, and the movie was awful.
Was that the weird movie that took place in space, like these astronauts on the space station and all this crazy weird stuff starts happening and the Earth disappears?
No.
What
Yes,
movie was
until
that?
well, that was a different movie where the Earth disappears. I forget what movie that is, but it's not this one. It is people on a spaceship though, and weird stuff is happening. Funny enough, I feel like the Earth might actually have disappeared at some point in the movie, but I know you're thinking of a different one.
Somebody's arm disappears in this one, or something
Yes,
like that.
yes.
Wait,
Anyway,
just while we're at it, while we're just trying to remember different movies, what was that other weird sci-fi movie that took place on Earth that you told me to watch? It was kind of cool. It was like really low budget, where it's a dinner party at this house, and like all this weird interdimensional stuff starts happening, where they like see themselves in other houses.
Coherence.
Yeah, that was a cool movie. I liked that.
Yeah. If you haven't seen Coherence and you like sci-fi, I highly recommend it. Even if you don't like sci-fi, but you like psychological thrillers or you like mystery, I highly recommend Coherence. And it's really impressive what they were able to do on a super low budget. It's yeah, highly recommend that movie.
We should make something like that. That should be the OneTake production. I'm gonna I can't get writing on this. We'll have to do it
Yeah.
all improv, like Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yeah, exactly. It's gonna be that sounds awesome. It's gonna be you trying to remember stuff for 2 hours.
I feel like you're not actually excited about this idea.
So yeah, so Cloverfield might be coming back. Cloverfield Paradox did tie in to the first Cloverfield, so that was an actual sequel. There have been talks for a few years. They even, I think, officially announced at one point, we're finally making an actual Cloverfield sequel. A good one, not that Paradox one. We're making a real Cloverfield 2. They announced a director.
Wait, when you say a real one, you mean like a good one?
I mean two things. I mean a good one, and I mean in the same universe as the first one that continues the story.
Okay.
As opposed to 10 Cloverfield Lane. So it looks like it might actually happen now because the Slusho website is back.
Did they announce it was back, or people just discovered that it was back?
People just discovered it. So this might be the
That's
beginning
cool.
of another viral marketing campaign where we can start digging through clues and
Are,
Easter eggs.
are you still allowed to do viral marketing campaigns after the whole COVID thing?
Yeah, they have to find a new name for it. It's going to be a good marketing campaign. Sisu, Daniel, tell me about Sisu.
Yeah. Sisu was a movie we decided to see because we saw a trailer for it when we went to see John Wick 4. So I think it was created by some of the same producers as John Wick.
No, I don't even
Uh,
think that. I think is from the same studio. And they definitely tried to
oh,
market it as this is John Wick, but killing Nazis. That was the
yeah.
marketing campaign.
Yeah, it was supposed to be basically like John Wick in Finland during World War II, killing Nazis. So basically, the movie is about this like much older Finnish guy who used to be, or I mean, he was like a really deadly Finnish soldier who was known for killing hundreds of Nazis in like absolutely ruthless ways. Basically, he has like nothing left in his life. I think it's hinted that he like lost his wife, right? Because they keep showing his wedding band.
Yeah. They also
And
say
he's
at one
discovered.
point he lost his family. That's why he went on
Oh,
his
okay.
revenge spree. And basically the
Yeah.
army was like, just do whatever you want to do. Just go, and we're happy with you killing a lot of people. Just keep at it.
Yeah, and he discovers all this gold, and these Nazis on their way out of Finland. Excuse me. I was wondering, should I just keep trucking along with the messed up voice? So basically, these Nazis find him with all this gold on their way out of Finland, and they basically turn around and they say, "All right, we're going to take this guy's gold," and he kills a bunch of Nazis.
That's right. And and this movie got great reviews. It was like a 95% on Rotten Tomatoes, I think. So I was pretty hyped for it. Until and then Adam, before we saw the movie, he was like, I don't know, the trailer and a few parts looked kind of stupid. And that dampened my mood a little bit. I was like, why would you say that right before the movie? He's just it's like because there's a placebo effect where if you get hyped and then you see it, you might inflate how good it is, right? But if someone tells you beforehand, I don't know about this, you might go in with a little bit of an attitude adjustment where you enjoy the movie less.
What's the balance between the placebo effect and setting expectations too high and then being disappointed?
That's a good question. I don't have an answer to that.
Yeah, so the movie was a little
Well, because
disappointing.
I think that's what happened to me. Yeah, I got pretty. Adam didn't dampen my expectations enough because I still went in thinking this is gonna be
Yeah.
fun, and it was pretty good. It was, I would say, okay. I think the movie gets a lot of credit for what was achieved on a lower budget, but it just wasn't that great. And I think part of the problem is that we don't really see him do anything all that impressive for a couple of reasons. Number one, his enemies are so incompetent that it just seems like you could have killed them all. I could have dropped you in Finland and you would have done just fine.
Yeah.
And on
I don't know
top of
why they
that,
were so incompetent.
yeah, you don't want, yeah, you want the enemy to be as competent as possible. So it's all the more impressive when the good guy wins. And on top of that, they don't do anything physically impressive. In John Wick, you're seeing Keanu Reeves do things that are physically impressive. They don't even have to be on a movie screen. He could do them in real life, and you'd be like, that guy's really impressive. You don't see that in this movie. It's much more about kind of strategy. But again, strategy is not impressive if your enemies are really dumb. There were some of my favorite parts are just how over the top it goes. So, for example, one of the most badass things you see is when a character like John Wick has to operate on themselves. Like seeing a guy sew up their own stitches is still impressive. And they go so far over the top with the wounds that he has to heal on himself. Every time they did that, it made me laugh and it was pretty awesome. And there were a few other really over the top moments. I would say if you're an action person, if you like John Wick and you're looking for more just awesome over the top action, I don't think I wouldn't say go out to the theater for this, but throw it on your TV once it's on digital. I think you'd enjoy it.
And if you like World War II content and killing Nazis, like just watch it, right? Like that's always enjoyable. Just watching stuff set in that period, in like the style of Inglorious Bastards.
Yeah, yeah, agreed. So Daniel, didn't you wanted to segue off this into Soviet history, I think you said?
Well, I have some historical tidbits I wanted to share. So, what's interesting, so first
Wait,
of
is
all,
this Daniel's bits?
this is Daniel's bits. Cue the
Wait,
music, Gil.
let me cue the Daniel's
Wait, did
bits
you actually have music for this?
theme song. Hold on. This is Daniel's bits. All right, go ahead, Daniel.
All right. Well, first of all, Finland. Gil, which side do you think Finland was on in World War II?
I don't know. Daniel, tell me.
Well,
I'm going to turn the music off. It's too distracting. You can't focus.
Finland had a really interesting history during World War II, and it also ties into some interesting Soviet history that I think a lot of Americans are not that familiar with. At least I wasn't. So, first of all, actually going back to the Soviet Union, I had always thought that, after World War II, the Soviet Union was massive, right? It spans, so much territory in Eurasia, all the way up to, all of East Germany. I had always thought that the way the Soviet Union conquered all that territory and all these satellite states was that the Nazis had captured those states and then the Soviets, liberated them into their own regime. But that's true in some places, but it's not entirely true. So first of all, at the beginning of World War II, Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union partitioned Poland. So the Soviet Union just takes half of Poland,
Right.
right? Now, France and England declare war on Germany, but not on the Soviet Union. Now, while Germany is fighting France and England, the Soviet Union annexes tons of other countries. They annex Estonia, Lithuania, and Latvia. They annex a big part of Romania. And so now they've expanded really far westward. Oh, and I'm sorry. At the start of that, they invade Finland and they conquer a bunch of Finland and they fight. And actually, sorry, the invasion of Finland is pre World War II even, but it's all in the same era. Hey, Gil, you got to give me this my first Daniel's bits on the new format, okay? But my point is that the Soviet Union fought a lot of wars of aggression. Are you queuing me out? So let's tie it back to Finland. My point is that the Soviet Union fought and invaded many countries
Right.
leading up to World War II and during World War II. Including Finland. So they fought this brutal war against Finland. And it was brutal because this is a little bit before World War II, and the Soviet Union had barely modernized their army. And so they were really ill-equipped, and they just sent just tons of bodies into Finland. I mean, each Finnish soldier was worth so much more than a Soviet soldier in terms of like lethality and ability to fight, that it was just absolutely brutal. A lot of Finnish soldiers felt bad about the number of Soviet soldiers they were killing.
I've never heard that word
brutal.
before. Lethality. That's like how much you can kill.
I think so. I don't know if it's a real word.
Great word. That should be the name of our movie.
But to tie it back into the Finnish stuff, basically the Soviet Union, brutal invasion of Finland. Then Finland allies with the Germans. So when Germany and the Soviet Union fight each other in World War II, Finland allies with the Germans to expel the Soviets out of Finland. And then eventually, when the Soviet Union signs the Moscow Pact with the Western powers, right? That's basically the alliance, I think, of like the Soviet Union, England, and the US. Then Finland allies with the Allies against the Nazis. And so Finland is in basically three different periods of warfare in World War II. They're double victims, right? They're victims of the Soviet Union and the Germans. And I mean, just so much of the brutal fighting happened in Finland. And I think that's an interesting, that's some of the background behind the Sisu movie.
Very cool. All right.
But to sum up, I just want to sum up all that other stuff I was saying about the Soviet Union. Maybe I got a little distracted, but I just think it's interesting that they had so much conquest in World War II. And I don't think we're really taught that way, right? That they didn't take these lands from German aggression. This was all aggression on their own. And it's interesting. It's an interesting element of history that the Allies ended up allying with the Soviet Union against Germany, when maybe just as easily there was an alternate reality where it was England and the US against both Germany and the Soviet Union, as they were both imperialist totalitarian powers at the time. And that's my Daniel's bits for today.
Hate imperialist totalitarian powers. It's like the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, same thing. And we're Finland, caught between three worlds. I'll be honest with you. I think everything you're saying is very interesting. I had a hard time following. Not your fault. I'm just very tired.
Well,
Didn't
it's
sleep
because of
very
the
well.
writer's strike. I had to come up with this stuff on my own.
I'm going to look it up later. I'm like, none of that stuff he said was true. Finland didn't even exist until the late 1900s.
The monkey I have on a typewriter in the corner who normally writes Daniel's bits, he's on strike. He couldn't write anything.
Are you trying to take over my chimp facts?
No, this is a monkey, not a chimp.
You're right. Yeah, you know what monkeys are to chimps? Food.
What?
Food. It's
I
disgusting.
thought chimps are herbivores. No, they're omnivores. Just like
No,
us.
so chimps, they eat fruit. And you would think, well, when they're really hungry, they'll go after a monkey. But no. Once they're full on fruit and they have a lot of food, that's when they go hunting for monkeys. So I think for them, it's like a delicacy. They like eating monkeys, but it's a treat. And it's also, I think, a way of showing off to be like, I caught the monkey. Don't quote me on
So
that.
do they mainly eat fruit? Like they're not eating other vegetables?
I think primarily fruit.
That's so interesting. Like I couldn't. I mean, just imagine living off of just fruit. To me, it feels like living off of just candy.
Yeah, I know. Nerve gas, I think, while you were talking about history, he was like, Cloverfield. What about Cloverfield? I mean, basically, there's not much to say on Cloverfield. It's just that in the original Cloverfield, the Slush Show website was a huge part of the marketing campaign, and that website has recently reactivated. So people think we're gearing up for another Cloverfield movie.
And did you say his username was Nerve Gas?
Yes.
Speaking of nerve gas and chemical weapons, there is an interesting tidbit about chemical weapons World War II.
Okay.
I'll share it very quickly.
Quick one.
Basically, near the end of the war, when Germany was like in total collapse, and they were sending out like kids and old men to go fight, like really desperate last end of days like maneuvers. There's not much known about this, but it's believed that the Nazi regime distributed chemical weapons to certain forces, and the Soviet Union was very scared that the Germans might start using like brutal chemical weapons, far worse than anything that was used in World War One. The weapons were distributed in these like boxes with like signs on them that said only to be used on direct orders from the Fuhrer, from Adolf Hitler, and they were never used, and we don't know why. But that would have been another interesting turn in history if like brutal chemical weapons were used at the end of the war. I imagine they thought it wouldn't have turned the tide, and that's why it wasn't used.
Do we know what was the chemical?
That I think we do know. I don't know, but I think that's known. But probably, something just very, very lethal.
Wow. I actually have my own tidbits. I put these. See, I thought it was kind of it's not really a slow news week, but in terms of stuff we care about, it kind of is a slow news week. So I wasn't sure if we'd be able to muster enough conversation out of those things. So I brought some emergency glass, some things I could bring up. And I have kind of headlines for them. So I have 3 headlines, and you can pick which one you want to hear about.
Ooh, this sounds fun.
All right, so here are the headlines. Number 1, you feeling okay? Number 2, whose side are you on anyway? Or number 3, the sleep solution.
These are the names of headlines?
These are my own headlines for the topics.
Okay. What was the second one?
Whose side are you on anyway?
All right, let's hear that one.
All right. So I recently remembered something that happened to me in middle school, and I wanted to get your take on it. Whose side are you on? Who is right and who is wrong? So I used to take my grades very seriously. It's the only thing I had in my life. Didn't have any friends. All my friends listening are like, what are you talking about? What about me? I didn't have any friends. All I had were my grades. And so if I didn't get a good grade, it was like very upsetting. Like that was the worst thing that could happen to me. The lethality of that was beyond measure. And in geography class, one night I was writing this paper that was due the next day. And while writing, I accidentally spilled some water, and it spilled onto the paper. So I'd already started writing though, and the water didn't splash onto any portion of what I'd written. So I very carefully tore off the wet part and I wrote around it. So I handed in this paper that was basically just missing like a big chunk. Like I handed it in and it's just this was missing, you know? And the teacher failed me. And I was like, I don't get it. I was like, why? And he's like, you can't hand this in. Like you handed me a ripped piece of paper. I was like, but all the words are there. Like you can read the words. If anything, you should give me more points because it showed my ability to think quickly and conserve resources. Why do we have to go cut down another tree because I spilled a little bit of water? This is the kind of guy who cries over spilled milk. Am I right?
Yeah, no,
So
I'm completely on your side. This is ridiculous. This is just ridiculous, strict adherence to some weird made up rule. Like, who cares? It's just as readable. Yeah, who cares? It's ridiculous.
I remember
I'm mad. I'm really mad about this.
I didn't cry, but I welled up a little bit, I remember. And he was like, I'm sorry if that's upsetting, Gil. And I'm like, what do you mean if it's upsetting? Clearly I'm upset.
Which teacher was this?
It
No, we
was
can't dox anyone.
yeah, it was a geography teacher in middle school, I think.
Oh.
We didn't
Yeah.
go to
We
you're
yeah,
saying,
we went to
oh,
different
as
middle
if like you
schools.
remember. We went to different schools.
I'm picturing my middle school geography teacher, and he would have done something like that.
Okay.
If you're watching, I'm sorry.
You know who you are.
That'd be so weird.
All right. We'll save the other headlines for another day. You feeling okay? And the sleep solution. The only other thing I had in my notes that we didn't really talk about is on the topic of Pete Davidson. He has a new show coming out called Bupkis. I'm not going to watch it. I hear it's not very good. But the only thing I'm upset about is that Joe Pesci, who's been somewhat retired for years, he kind of came out of retirement for The Irishman, a movie I really enjoyed. I saw it twice. He is a main character on this show. And it's just upsetting to me that we have Joe Pesci acting again. And it's for this. I wish it was for something a little more serious and something better. Pedro Pascal was cast in Gladiator 2, along with Denzel Washington.
Wait, Gladiator 2?
Yeah. Gladiator 2 is
Ooh.
finally happening. There was actually
What's
a
it about?
Gladiator. I think it's about that nephew of Joaquin Phoenix's character, the kid in the first movie.
Yes.
I think he's all grown up. I don't know the details. I think they have released some details on what the story is about. I don't recall them. And, whatever. It's exciting, though, because the first Gladiator was an awesome movie. And I believe Ridley Scott will be directing. And I had something else to say about this that was going to be jaw-dropping, but I can't remember.
Denzel Washington, Pedro Pascal.
Yeah, that's right. They've joined the cast. That's cool. So there you go. Oh, yeah. There was a Gladiator 2 that was written years ago, which I guess spoilers for Gladiator. If you haven't seen the original Gladiator movie with Russell Crowe, get out of here and go watch it. But now I'm about to spoil it. Russell Crowe dies at the end of that movie. And the Gladiator 2 script that was written, which has been released online, so you can actually read the script, he gets brought back to life by the gods. And as a side effect, he becomes immortal. So at the end of the movie, they kind of start flashing forward throughout time. You see him like fighting in World War II, and you see him working at the Pentagon in modern day, which I would love to see that movie. And one day you'll get to see it. Once they develop AI technology that can actually produce a good movie, entertainment is going to be you sitting down, probably in virtual reality, and you just say to it, all right, show me Gladiator 2 in the style of a Christopher Nolan movie and have Russell Crowe's character working for the Pentagon, and it'll just produce the movie. And you could even say, show me a version that would get a 95% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes and a 99% audience score. It's going to be a great future, Daniel. Apolock says, the original Gladiator production was a mess. Ridley had no script. Interesting. Hey, that could be a video. The crazy production behind Gladiator. Oh, we're having the OneTake Summit today, right, Daniel? So right now we're in two different locations, clearly. But Daniel's coming over later, We're going to see Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and we're going to talk strategy, the future of OneTake.
Do I have a ticket for that? Oh, we got to do that.
Yeah, we have to swap. Yeah, because we're both A-list members. So Daniel shouldn't pay for his ticket. He's got to use his 3 free movies a week.
We're going to see Guardians code in the description.
Yeah, that's right. So we're going to talk OneTake strategy. You know, are we going to continue OneTake? Are we going to shut it down? Probably going to shut it down, right? So this may be the last video on OneTake ever. I'm just you know. So
go out. If
we want to go out
say
on
something.
Yeah, we're waiting for everyone to be like, no,
with our old Cinnabon.
Yeah. But one possible video format could be about crazy productions like Gladiator. Apparently, the writing process behind Alien was pretty insane. And the Dan O'Bannon, the original writer, I found some shocking interviews with him where he was a very angry person, and he wrote a lot of that anger into the movie. Daniel, any other thoughts? Anything else you want to mention before we wrap up?
I was going to say, just as a heads up for our strategy discussion later, I want to make more short films and sketches like we did for Better Call Saul. That was so much fun. I think some of these have potential. Or
I agree. I was going to say, it's actually pretty depressing because I haven't been on this set for a while, and I spent a lot of time down here when I was working on the Halloween video. So all like the props. Actually, this laptop right now is sitting on the briefcase that was filled with all the Halloween tapes. I'm going to cover the name because someone put their name on this. I guess whoever we bought it from, someone named Lisa. But and actually, that paper I held up earlier was my checklist of all the Halloween movies. While I was wondering, I think that was my estimate for how long it was going to take to record.
So I still like that. I mean, that is a video I think we can be proud of. Like, that is an impressive video. The recap stuff too, right? And the sketch, like, it's impressive. It is entertaining, and people are still watching it, and that has potential for years that people will enjoy it.
In October, it might get a bump from the algorithm in October because for anyone unfamiliar with it, it's a 4-hour video where I recapped, reviewed every Halloween movie, including Halloween Ends. But my favorite part of it is that in between the recaps and reviews, there's an actual storyline that explains why I'm watching them. You see me put the tapes in the VCR. Daniel turns into Michael Myers and he chases me around with a knife. I love that stuff. I mean, what inspired me to do that is the angry video game nerd, James Rolfe. And sometimes into his reviews, he'll incorporate sketches. And it's a lot of fun. I love that stuff. I want to do more of it.
I think we could do, I was just going to say, for a strategy discussion later, I think it'd be fun to try a few like 20 to 30 minute videos in that style, right? A lot less.
It doesn't have to be 4.5 hours long. This wall, we literally painted this wall expressly for the purpose of having a better backdrop when I was doing the reviews. It was insane. But we don't have to do a 4-hour video to do sketches. They can be shorter. They don't have to be as involved. Like we could have done it for what Scream is really about. I wanted to do it where Ghostface calls me. I even found some software we could use to make someone sound like him. And he was going to be like, you haven't reviewed my movies. And I was going to say, well, for what Blank is really about, I usually like to talk about stuff with more depth. And he's like, I'll show you the depth of my knife in your throat, or something like that. You can see why we didn't do that. So, we definitely want to do more of that stuff. I think that would be fun. The Lowdown Show. Any news on Raised by Wolves? No, sadly, no. The only news that we got on Raised by Wolves, the tangentially related, Abu Bakr Salim, the actor who played Father, has been cast in House of the Dragon season 2. So that's cool. He's a cool guy, by the way. He also runs a video game company, like a startup. And I think he's also just recently started up a studio to make movies and shows and stuff. So people were like, maybe Raised by Wolves season 2. I don't think so. I don't think he has the rights to that or probably the means to make something that would require the budget that would be required by that. The only kind of news-ish thing that we have gotten that you know why I'm having I feel like you right now having such a hard time getting these words out.
Hey,
But
I'm going to go on strike too. The Daniels strike.
there was a rumor circulating that there's going to be a graphic novel or comic to continue the story. And where that rumor comes from is there was actually there was some news.
I'm sorry that I was spreading that rumor, Gil.
That's just your go-to. I think there was a GoFundMe to get a billboard about like a Save Raised by Wolves billboard. So I guess that's news. And I think it was fully funded. I saw a tweet. So there might be a billboard somewhere. It might have been to get a sign in Times Square. It's less expensive than you would think because they go through a lot of ads on those big screens. So it's not that expensive to get like a 30-second Save Raised by Wolves. But the people who kind of were running that effort, they said they were in contact with Abu Bakr, the actor. And according to them, he said that they're working on a graphic novel. So, you know, take that with a couple grains of salt. Here's why I'm skeptical. They did release a comic book that took place it took place during season 1 and just gave some more background. And they said they were going to do a second issue between season 1 and 2 to bridge the gap. And that issue never came. So Raised by Wolves has a history of saying they're going to do comics and then not doing them. So there you go. Did you even watch season 2, Daniel?
No, I mean, I liked season 1. I remember I liked the comic. I started watching season 2 and I just felt like it was such a big dip in quality that I just couldn't stick with it.
No comment from me. So wrap it up. All right. I'll see you later, Daniel, for the OneTake Summit, where we determine the future of this channel. And we'll see Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Will we do a video podcast reviewing Guardians 3 possibly?
Probably.
All right, cool. And it'll probably be right here back in the bay. Actually, I don't know if we're going to have time for that. We'll see. Maybe on Sunday. Okay, let's wrap it up. With that, thank you everybody who joined the live chat. And I'll see you on the next one. Okay. With that,
see you
on the next
one take.
Yeah, as stilted as always. That's great. It would have been better if we had our usual staff of writers that tell us what to say, but without them, this is going to be like OneTake in 2008. Remember that?
Oh yeah, rough days.
See you on the next OneTake.
OneTake.